In this performance art, this artist is sewing, but she's doing it under 1,500 scissors pointed straight at her. So she's like facing the possibility of being impaled while simultaneously keeping very calm. The artist is Beili, and this performance is called The Mending Project. And it's all about the feeling that most people have in society where we are living under a lot of uncertainty and fear. And she suggests that one of the best things to do when you're in this state is to do something that's very simple and very calming. Now in this performance art, visitors are asked to cut a piece of cloth, and those are the ones that are sewn together by the artist. And she sits here and she sews all those pieces under all of that uncertainty. But I cannot understand how you sit there knowing about those scissors. How at any time, I'm not suggesting any of us sit under scissors, but this idea of doing small tasks to calm us or to work towards a bigger goal is wonderful advice. Let's talk about a performance artist that brought tears to my eyes. She's right there, and this is her sea of paper. She grabs scissors and she cuts into incredibly tiny little strips of paper. This is a normal size printer paper and takes her 40 minutes to cut one of these. It has all to do with her mental health. This artist was admitted to a psychiatric hospital and struggled so much with her mental health, and then she found paper cutting. She would spend 10 hours a day cutting paper. And these are the absolutely breathtaking results. She's just cutting. And then she started doing it as performance art, and she would sit there and cut for people, and then there would be a microphone capturing all the scissor snips, because for her that was also an incredibly meditative, and she wanted the audience to experience that as well. Now she did this for 10 hours a day for about 14 years, so there are around 42,700 sheets of paper that she's created, all ripped up into this wispy little stuff. She said that this act of cutting and this monotonous work helps her organize and structure all her random thoughts. I cannot believe how thin these are. 40 minutes to cut one piece of paper. Unbelievable. And seeing her sit in this in her white wardrobe pulls so hard at my heartstrings. Let's talk a little bit more about Kirsha. She opened up an art lounge only for women and then got sued for gender discrimination. And this is her and other women dancing out of the courtroom. She did lose the lawsuit. This is what she said about the men getting mad about this ladies only lounge.
The men are hysterical, and they're saying that I'm hysterical, and they're right, I'm hysterical.
All of this from the fake Picasso, what she said about men, the whole courtroom scene is a performance art. And listen to what she says about the man who sued her.
I like Mr. Lau, and I intend to invite him to my Christmas parties, to our gala, and I mean that in all seriousness. I think he's adorable, he's a cute person, he was a pleasure to be courted by.
Men getting mad, the man suing, it all played into the art. She really wanted to find a way to make men feel discriminated, just like many women have been discriminated before. And honestly, she is so brilliant. The choice words that she uses in interviews are so premeditated.
He's adorable, he's a cute person.
In the lounge, there was a fake Picasso. She painted it. There are no legal repercussions yet. People are mad. Obviously, they were tricked. The integrity of the museum comes into question and what they stand for. Her husband owns the museum, so obviously he knew what was happening. I'm assuming. But as a performance art, her, the Picasso, wow. Let's talk about an artist who crochets herself into Cocoon Creations. She did this for 11 hours nonstop. The beginning of her performance all the way to the end, and in the end, she's just laying there covered inside her cocoon. 11 hours. These are some of her other works. This artist was from the Philippines. At the end, just being covered and secure. She moved from home at a very early age. With that, she felt a lot of separation, isolation, and the idea of crocheting and knitting were always associated with home. She also mentioned that this entire process is incredibly meditative. The sheer amount of time this takes is absolutely, unbelievable to me. But also, I cannot imagine the experience of spending so much time on that and then finally being able to just be protected by what you created. It's beautiful. Now her art is done in front of people. This was done in Boston, and I would die to see this. And then she just disappears. She also creates these funny ones where these just look like giant arm mittens. Anyway, I really want to start crocheting again and just create one and be able to snuggle up and feel like you're in a womb. This is a potter who just always drops his pots. Look how chaotic. They get squished. This is the artist Cherrico, and legitimately, every time I see his video, I'm like, oh, I'm heartbroken. Look at those little babies. But obviously it's on purpose. So he's a potter, but he's also a performance artist. So after he kills them all and maybe saves a couple, he goes and he cleans up his mess. All those tiny little baby pots he has to redo again. And that's what he does. He redoes them. And then we watch him do his little pottery. Now this video idea, this whole thing is so funny. Because every time you watch it, you're heartbroken. Also the fact that he just has to clean it, that sucks. And I'm sure he's learned so much patience throughout this process. But look at those little curvy bowls. They were so cute. This is a performance art by Yoko Ono. where she sits and the audience can come up and cut a piece of her clothing off. She starts completely clothed, and as you can imagine, towards the end she's in nothing. This performance is called Cut Pieces, and it gives creative control over to the audience. You can see what humans do when they are allowed to do anything. In the beginning of the performance, people were very hesitant. They cut small pieces and in areas that didn't disrobe her. But as the performance went on, they got more bold. And in the end, she was left with nothing and her hands covering her body. And when she was done, Yoko would finally end it. This performance happened in 3 different countries, and in each country, the participants acted differently. In Japan, the audience was much more restrained and seemed to be more hesitant to challenge social boundaries, like cutting off someone's clothes. In America, New York specifically, people were much more bolder, and possibly saw this as an opportunity to confront the norms of decency. And in the UK, it was a mix. This performance happened in the 60s, and in 1974, Marina Abramovich performed Rhythm Zero, which is another performance art where Marina gave her body to strangers. She stood there with 72 objects, and the audience could do whatever they wanted to. And the objects she used definitely raised the stakes. From this performance, we get a glimpse into human nature. And if we didn't already know, it's a bit scary. This is an artist who lived in this glass bottle for 10 days in front of the main stadium at the Paris Olympics. This is the artist Abraham Poincheval. He is a performance artist and has lived inside many things. Bears, rocks. But this one was in front of the main stadium. Here he is crawling into his bottle. And the bottle is clear, so everyone can see him. And there are these tubes protruding out of it, so anyone can go up and talk to him. And this bottle is 19 feet long and 6 feet in diameter. And it has a compost toilet. He has said that he underwent real training to be able to use the toilet without anyone seeing. And he says that this piece grapples with our modern understanding of privacy and intimacy. Now, he lived inside this bear for 13 days, and he was inside a museum, and you can see that the front comes off. However, it would be closed, and he's still in there. And then in the museum, there would be a little screen where viewers could watch him inside the bear, hanging out for 13 days. This was also in a museum. It's a large piece of limestone. He lived inside there for a week. You can see footage of himself in the rock. Now, he's spoken about how living life in an enclosure, losing a lot of your senses, helps him explore the world and human nature. And this is what he does in his art. Let's look at an artist that stole a coin from the British Museum, recorded it, all for art. This is the artist Sartuzi walking in the museum with the coin. This art piece is called Sleight of Hand and took a year to complete. He ends up returning the coin to the museum's donation box. This heist was done at the British Museum, and if you didn't know, they are notorious for getting things stolen. They are also always under fire for the artworks that they have in their museum. Many people call for repatriation. This is why this entire heist is incredibly interesting. First of all, it was legal, because the heist was done during a demonstration overseen by a volunteer guide. Also, the coin never left the museum. A big reason why this took a year to complete was because of legal consultation. The artist had to make sure that he was not in the wrong. The British Museum said that they were disappointed in him. This is what he says to the British Museum. It is difficult for us to enjoy the British Museum unless we ignore the historical violence of law and its role in legitimizing looting as a tool for the foundation of universal museums. But I think the thing that we should take away from this is, what is stealing? Who's allowed to steal? And when do we put stuff back? Also, what's interesting is the artist was caught the day before. He completed the heist on June 18th, but on June 17th, he went to the same museum and was caught by a volunteer guide. He ended up shaving, coming back the next day, and completed his mission. The artwork of this entire heist was made into a little film. You can watch it on the artist's Instagram. It's very fun to watch. It feels very Ocean's 11. Let's talk about a performance artist who shrink wraps himself. This is the artist, and he is between 2 plastic sheets. And as you can see, this tube right here, vacuum seals him inside them. He moves occasionally. There's air pockets, so he can still breathe through the entire process. Here he is breathing slowly. It looks like a struggle. This is another performance artist doing it. This is Jenna Frost. And as you can see, these people are suspended in the air inside these plastic sheets. This piece is by the Belgian artist Lawrence Malstaf. And the images of these are insane. This looks like aliens are harvesting these things. This is in Paris. Could you imagine walking along the ruins and then just walking up to this? I would run. I would run. In that first video, that was the artist doing it, but he also has volunteers do it. I cannot imagine being in this. I imagine at first it's like really scary, and then you kind of get into like a relaxing calm effect, and then you feel like you're in a womb. Maybe, I don't know, but oh my God. The images are so insane though. And this performance is called Shrink.